This is the Shantivan complex, a mega kitchen in Mount Abu, Rajasthan, belonging to the spiritual organization Brahma Kumaris. The kitchen is run entirely by volunteers who cook enough food to feed 40,000 people a day. The operation spans 4 floors and includes 14 dining halls, which can seat 15,000 people at a time. We visited the complex during a special celebration called Baba Milan to see how it prepares these meals in such big batches. Work in the kitchen begins at 5:30 a.m. with hundreds of volunteers cutting vegetables and peeling steamed potatoes by hand. During Baba Milan, 2,500 volunteers need to have prepped and cooked the festival meals. But that isn't something Banu Prakash, who's head of the bread department, is worried about.
तो कितनी भी सेवा होती है तो हम देखते हैं कि समय पे सेवा के जो सहयोगी है वो भी मिल जाते हैं.
The cut vegetables are loaded onto crates and wheeled into the main kitchen, where they're washed again in large metal containers and strained. All of the vegetables the kitchen uses are seasonal and bought directly from farms. And the food is prepared following the Sattvic diet, or the Yogi diet, which is rooted in Ayurvedic practices. Today the chefs are cooking rajma, vegetable sabzi, chapatis and teplas. While most of the prep work is done by hand, some vegetables are processed using machines. Crates of tomatoes are pureed and spinach is chopped finely. On the other side of the kitchen, another team uses that tomato puree to make a sauce. They pour 5 liters of peanut oil into a giant pot. Then they mix in whole wheat flour, curry powder, handfuls of cumin seeds, asafoetida, bay leaves, and chili powder. Buckets of pureed tomatoes are poured inside and tossed together with garam masala, a common Indian spice mixture. The chefs then scoop the sauce out with buckets and place it into large metal containers so that it can be delivered to another section of the kitchen. The tomato sauce is rolled to Chef Nilesh Bahi, who has been working here for 17 years and is in charge of making rajma, a curry dish made with kidney beans.
वैसे मैं राजस्थानी हूँ, लेकिन यहाँ आकर ही मैं इतना राजमा जो बनता है यहीं सीखा और मैं बनाता भी हूँ. अभी मेरा फेवरेट है, तो काश मैं राजमा बहुत दिल से बनाता हूँ.
He soaks the kidney beans for 10 to 12 hours before boiling them in this pot for 3 hours. Once they're cooked, Nilesh uses a small scooper to examine the beans' tenderness and gauge the broth consistency. When the beans pass the test, he tips the pot and scoops in 400 kilograms of the tomato sauce. He then fills the pot with more water so it achieves the same consistency he had before the tomatoes. This is something Nilesh determines with his eye. On the side, he mixes oil, cumin, coriander, garam masala, asafoetida, gram flour and chili powder into a bucket. He then pours this into the pot and adds salt. After he adds the first round of spices, he tastes the rajma and decides if it needs more flavor. Once Dinesh approves of the taste, he mixes in finely chopped spinach.
और जो आप देखेंगे बर्तन, जो आप उसका कैपेसिटी 1200 लीटर का है, उस बर्तन में हम लोग जब पूरा भर के बर्तन बनाते हैं, उसमें 7000 लोगों का दाल या राजमा बन जाता है पूरा.
Cooking all of this food requires an immense amount of energy. Since 1990, the kitchen has used a concentrated solar array on top of its roof to heat water and generate steam, which can be used to cook most of the food the kitchen makes. The cooked rajma is drained through a spigot into smaller containers, which are then covered and wheeled to the dining halls. One of the most important dishes made in the kitchen is sabzi, a mixed vegetable dish that varies depending on the vegetables available that day. cooks heat oil in a massive pot along with cumin seeds, curry leaves, and asafoetida. Next, they add turmeric, cut chilies, and chopped bottle gourd. They mix everything together before adding in chopped potatoes, garlic gourd,
तो ऐसे 200 केजी आटा हमको 10 मिनट में ये मशीनें गूंद के देती है।
The sifted flour is then taken to mechanical mixers where different types of dough are made. Today, the bread department is making two types of flatbreads, chapatis and teplas. The tepla dough is made by combining water, whole wheat flour, turmeric, chili powder, ground spinach, and fenugreek seed. Once mixed, the dough is wheeled to volunteers who use their hands to roll it into palm-sized balls. These balls are then brought to a team of 200 rollers who flatten them so they can be cooked. Chefs rub the flattened teplas with ghee and slap them onto flat griddles to cook. Together, this team can make 20,000 teplas an hour. On the other side of the bread department, machines are used to make chapatis without fillings. The dough is top-loaded into machines, which chop, flatten and bake it into crispy chapatis.
ये एक मशीन एक घंटे में 2000 चपाती अपने को बना के देती है। ऐसी 7 मशीनें अपने पास है, तो 14000 चपाती एक घंटे में मशीन से बनाई जाती है।
Like everything else that gets cooked here, the breads are placed inside metal containers to keep warm and wheeled to the dining halls for guests. In the dining halls, the rajma is served with rice, chapatis, and bhindi masala, a side dish made of okra and spices. During Baba Milan, the Hindu god Shiva, who is recognized as the father of souls, is believed to visit practitioners.
तो बाबा मिलन का मतलब शिव बाबा हमारे यहाँ पे एक साकार मीडियम के अंदर साकार शरीर में आते थे।
सब बाबा के बच्चे, बाबा का भंडारा है, वो भरपूर रहता है, कभी